Den of Thieves 2, Den of Thieves Pantera, is a follow-up to 2018's Den of Thieves, which starred Gerard Butler as sleazeball cop Big Nick O'Brien and O'Shea Jackson Jr. as heist mastermind Donnie Wilson. That one also starred Curtis 50 Cent Jackson and Pablo Schreiber as fellow thieves, and whose presence is noticeably missing in this one. I couldn't believe it. When I saw the first one came out in 2018, that blew my mind. That's the same year the first Black Panther movie came out. I don't know about you, but that whole time period between 2020 and like 2022, things going on there kind of like had this weird effect on my memory where it both compresses and dilates things. So things that happened, within a couple of years of that time period, like Den of Thieves, feels like it came out both 1,000 years and 9 months ago. But in reality, if that's what this is, it's been 7 years since the first movie, which was a grimy, scuzzy take on the Cops v. Robber heist classics. If Den of Thieves the movie had a favorite movie, it would be the all-time classic 1995's Heat. Now that one starred Al Pacino, Robert De Niro, Tom Sizemore, Val Kilmer, among many other notable names. Den of Thieves doesn't have quite the same heft as that one does, but it had pretty good dialogue. There were some good action scenes. There was good chemistry among the actors, solid performances, and overall it was a pretty decent time at the movies, if it was a little long. And like Heat, the first Den of Thieves takes place in Los Angeles and heavily features the city and its surrounding areas. In the sequel, we jump entire continents as Detective Nick chases thief Donnie all the way to France, but thanks to writer-director Christian Gudgast and cinematographer Terry Stacy, the second movie, at least stylistically, feels like a seamless continuation from the first. Now, the first movie is one of those movies that has like a real low-key twist ending. Like the last 90 seconds completely recontextualizes everything that we have seen before, but it's like so unflashy about it. It's like the opposite of the movie The Illusionist. You remember that one? At the end with like the swirling camera is going around Paul Giamatti and he's like spasming with all these realizations as like these just like cascading waves of info was just flowing through his brain. This one's like the opposite of that one. In fact, the filmmakers were so unconcerned with the twist ending of the first one that they just straight up spoil it in the trailer for the second one. So obviously, Donnie Wilson is still around because O'Shea Jackson's in the movie, but I'll let you infer what you want about Pablo Schreiber and 50 Cent based on the fact that they're not in this one. So the first movie the twist ending is not what people remember. It's a solid entry. Apparently made about $80 million on a $30 million budget, which, might have turned a profit, but it gained legs on streaming, enough to earn a sequel. So here we are. So carrying over themes from the first one, of course, in the original, Big Nick is a morally gray, repugnant detective who often crosses the right and wrong line in order to serve justice to those who would otherwise get away. Nick's professional life wrecks his personal life, and a divorce from his wife and the mother of his 2 daughters bridges the gap between the 2 films. Desperate for money and at the end of his tether, Nick breaks bad.
Coin flip is sacred.
In the sequel and crosses completely over that thin blue line.
Over the line!
And joins Donnie on his next heist. You see, Donnie has put together a team of specialists, which he calls the Panthers. Now in this one, Big Nick, Donnie, and the Panteras are going to rob the main vault in the Diamond District of Nice, France. And hilarity ensues. Nick integrates into the team. There are a couple of bad apples that don't like or trust him. There's a guy who's suspicious at first but comes around. There's a sexy potential love interest. Nick, at one point, proves his commitment to the heist and to the team with some heavy partying involving the heavy use of some illicit substances. There's a lot of Lethal Weapon 1 Martin Riggs in this Big Nick character. He's so strung out. He's so distraught at his personal life that he's just willing to throw himself off a cliff to get the job done. And man, Gerard Butler, can't say enough about this guy. This kind of seemed like fluff work, but he is 100% committed. Butler elevates every scene that he's in and every performer that he's in a scene with. He seems to me to be a real actor's actor. Like he's always thrown it to the other people in the scene. He's treating everybody else that he's in a scene with like they're Brando or Pacino or De Niro, even if they're not. He goes really big here, and it's a role that could feel real hammy, but it's not. It's spot on. I would love to see the outtakes of this, when the director yells cut and Gerard Butler goes from this just red, glassy-eyed, 3:30 in the morning, just completely drugged out of his mind, drunk, stoned, high on X, and the director yells cut and he snaps out of it, and it's just Gerard Butler hanging out on set there with O'Shea Jackson Jr. And speaking of Butler and O'Shea Jackson Jr.'s characters, hanging out, partying until the wee hours of the morning, a large part of the second act revolves around this bromance, making it feel more like a buddy movie than a heist movie for a lot of it, which is fine. It's fun. The filmmakers obviously felt like there was enough chemistry, that the chemistry was strong enough between these two to carry a sequel. And, they're mostly right. Again, without an actor of George Butler's, who the fuck is George Butler? Again, without an actor of Gerard Butler's caliber, a lot of this just wouldn't have the same energy. This really, parts of this, especially Gerard Butler's performance, really reminded me of a movie called Filth from 2013, which starred James McAvoy as a drugged out cop.
Bingo.
And again, like the first one, there's some pretty great dialogue in this movie. It's it doesn't rely on itself too much to fill an exposition from the first one, allowing this one to stand more on its own. There's so much clunky exposition out there these days in movies and even on TV shows when they have a previously on segment. It's like they'll do previously on to catch you up, and then it'll be just more crappy dialogue. This one's not bad. It's not David Mamet, but it's not Glenn Ross. He gets the job done. There was also a huge storyline in this
as
one.
It is,
that
this one
reminded
is
me of
is
kind of a side
the ending does
storyline in
leave
that movie,
no,
Enemy of the
without all
State,
the
that Will
wrestling.
Smith movie with Gene Hackman.
Like they were intended for a
1,000
different
other people.
storyline, maybe like a different.
You remember that
ending,
when there was a storyline involving
as it is, as the ending is,
videotape.
and this one it definitely
an
leaves
actual
room open for a
VHS
third
tape
one.
that
And
had evidence of a
I'd go
crime
see
on
it.
it. That
The
this
first
bad
one was
guy
220.
wanted to get
This
back
one's
from Will
224, and
Smith.
I'd go see a third one.
There's a
Just
similar
keep my fingers
MacGuffin
crossed that they
device
don't keep getting
in
longer.
Den of Thieves 2.
Those
It's
are
not
my
wrapped
thoughts
up
on
in
Den of
exactly the
Thieves
same way,
2,
so it doesn't
Den of
feel like
Thieves,
a total
Pantera.
ripoff.
What are yours?
But it
Have you
also
seen it?
doesn't
You're
feel
gonna go see
totally
this one. You're gonna
fresh
skip it. You're gonna wait for
either.
Wolfman next week.
Speaking of which,
Let me know in the comments.
at 2
Thanks for
hours and
watching. Make sure to
24
hit like
minutes,
and subscribe.
this movie
See you
is
in the next
long.
one.
I'm trying to find a different way to say that movies are too long. Because when I say that I think a movie is too long, it kind of implies that I have a problem watching a 2 hour and 24 minute movie, which I don't. As long as all of the scenes are necessary or at least interesting. This one has a few too many that don't feel necessary. So, also the ending felt like one of those endings where they probably filmed a couple of different versions and then just made the decision in the editing room. As I go back and replay some of the scenes throughout the movie, a couple of them feel like they don't quite work. Like they were intended for a different storyline, maybe like a different ending. But as it is, as the ending is in this one, it definitely leaves room open for a third one. And I'd go see it. The first one was 220. This one's 224, and I'd go see a third one. I'd just be keeping my fingers crossed that they don't keep getting longer. So those are my thoughts on Den of Thieves 2, Den of Thieves Pantera. What are yours? Have you seen it? Are you going to go see this one? Are you going to skip it? You're going to wait for Wolfman next week? Let me know in the comments. Thanks for watching. Make sure to hit like and subscribe. I'll see you in the next one.